Hello, my name is Larry Martin and I'm a solutions consultant with Beyond 20. Today we're going to talk about utilizing or using the CMDB inside of Cherwell in the out-of-the-box configuration. Now the CMDB has quite a bit of functionality to it, so we're not going to cover everything, but we will look at the forms, look at the data that's held on those forms and how you can use it in your environment. We'll also not be covering hooking the CMDB into your existing SCCM, System Center Configuration Management, nor will we be looking at connecting it to Cherwell Asset Management, but just basically looking at what the out-of-the-box CMDB looks like and gives you. Tying it into an external system that does inventorying and such for you will be a video for a different time. So first off, the CMDB is accessed by going up to your Tools CMDB menu. Additionally, if you're not on CMDB already and you need to create a CMDB record, like a config computer or server, you would come over to the New button, hit the arrow drop down, and it's configuration item. So when you hear CMDB, configuration item, config computer, all of those are related to the CMDB within Cherwell. So let's just go ahead, and we're not going to create a new item yet. Let's look at the Tools, CMDB, and stop right here on this screen. So on this screen, you have a couple of options. You can search against all configuration items, and you can specify which customer to search against. So you have the option there. So this filtering will let you search just config computers. You can see we have 38. Since I don't have a customer value in here, it will search all customers, but let's go ahead and put John Allard in. And you see that we now are returning just the one computer that John Allard is set as the primary user. You can also filter with a time frame, but the search is useful when you're hunting or looking for a particular item, if you're making links between items, etc. So this is your primary Tools CMDB Find Me ACI. Also on incident and change and other objects, you may have a related item picker because there's a relationship between that object and the config item group that will allow you to say, show me the workstation for John Allard because he, for example, is the requester on the incident. So his primary CI would be this laptop. You can store multiple devices or CIs for individual customers. You can also customize the system to allow you to do quite a few things. Again, we're not going to get into the customizations. We're primarily focused on what the out-of-the-box system looks like and how to use it. So let's go ahead and just open one of the items that are already in this system. And the information has been pulled in. So you can see that we have a status. We'll go ahead and bring up table management and give you a quick overview of the statuses that a computer CI can have because they do differ between the CIs. CI status. The field on the actual CI object is asset status. But you can see our CI computer has 10 different, let me order these, 10 different statuses. So it'll come in as new, and then you would order it. You ordered it, you're going to mark it as in stock, then you're going to bring it as planned because you're planning to build it out and prep it for delivery. You're going to test it, and then you're going to deliver it, and it's active. If that device has an issue, it goes down. If you pull it and you need to do repair work, stolen or missing in action, and ultimately retired. Now, obviously, organizations will modify these statuses to meet their particular cycles or life cycle for that particular CI type. Most of the CIs follow the same basic status or life cycle, but you can make changes as needed when you're developing your system and actually implementing. So we take a look at software license, which is only 5 statuses. We're going to have a request, and then we're going to plan it or order it, and then it's either active or expired. Now, these may or may not make sense in your environment, but those are the statuses in the out-of-the-box system. As with the other objects within Cherwell, if we want certain activities to occur when we change a status, we can set up automation processes or make modifications to allow for that. We can do things when ownership changes. We can do things when primary users change. Pretty much any other field on the form. So just like with the incident or change or any other out-of-the-box object, you can set up these automation processes to perform activities for you. A lot of times you'll have purchasing activities where you purchase a device, go through an approval or request a purchase, go through an approval process, get it approved, do the purchase, and when the purchase order is closed or along the way, then you may want to do a creation of a CI, in this case a computer record. So you've got a lot of flexibility, a lot of customization that can be done. So on our asset, we have a counter inside of Cherwell that whenever you create a new record, or if you just want a new asset tag, you can click the new button and it will increment this from that counter. Now, in some organizations, you actually have and use asset tags. You can remove the automation functionality there and actually use your asset tagging systems. A lot of times in a system, instead of having the OS as a free text field, we might create a table or a validation for that field so that we only allow these operating systems to be chosen from, and it becomes a drop down. You've got your OS family, your OS group, professional, home, student, etc., depending on the operating system. And you can customize all of this so that it works kind of like service category and subcategory, where if you pick Windows 7, then only Windows NT would show up, and your OS group might be professional or home and or student. Whereas if you pick 10, or Windows 7 could even be ultimate, so that you can see exactly which OS is on this particular computer. Primary use, this is used to show whether it's an individual workstation, shared, it's doing front office services, back office services, whatever you need to relay in here. Obviously you can add that. Computer type, is it a laptop, is it a computer, workstation? Some clients add tablet as an option here because they consider the tablet more of a computer than a mobile device, and mobile device is more about mobile phones, MiFi devices, etc. And then your manufacturer coming from the product catalog table, so that you can get your information and keep it all, so that whenever you're ordering you can go through the product catalog, etc. You've also got your models, which are limited by the manufacturer. Building floor and room location information, serial number information. Again, a lot of these fields can be populated from your asset management system or SCCM, CAM, or other inventorying tools that you may have where the data is collected. You don't have to try to work it all within Cherwell. You can actually connect to an external data source such as the ones I've mentioned and get a lot of this data pulled in and expand those systems to include more information if needed. Your basic system information is here. Then you start getting into things like your networking information, BIOS, your CPU type, how many CPUs, what the speed is, how much memory the machine has, what the virtual memory is. Your video is a free text form. If there's a barcode, you could scan that in and have the barcode number here. Your MAC address, your friendly name versus your host name. The username is the user that is the primary user. Your IPv4 and IPv6 addresses, and an alternate IP address if needed. Again, add fields as needed, customize the existing fields, require, right now we have few fields that are required for save, but we can add to that. And under our financial section, we have a limited amount of information here where we're tracking the vendor, the invoice ID or PO number when it was purchased. You can attach that, obviously. What your purchase date was, whether it was purchased or leased, and then what the purchase price is for that device. So that's the out-of-the-box computer. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at server real quick. We're not going to save our changes. So if we go to our config server, you'll see that it has a lot of the same fields, but it also has some differences. So on a server CI, we've got a primary user and or owner. We still have the statuses. We didn't talk about it on a computer, but when an incident is open against this CI or the user with a CI selected, you're going to have an incident count on the CI itself. You still have the asset tag primary use, but notice the primary use is now different for a server than it was for a desktop or laptop. Server type, domain controller, file server, web, etc. Obviously, we can expand on those. We still have our manufacturer model, serial number, but we also now have the ability to associate a specific SLA against that server that can be different than your service SLAs. And we can identify it as a critical. We still have our building floor and room. We have our operating system information. And we also have our maintenance calendar. So we can select a maintenance calendar. We can set a default, or we can customize maintenance calendars to show when that device can be patched, updated, set offline, etc. This is also useful whenever you're doing out-of-the-box change management or customized change management, where you still have the functionality there, where you can look for impacts or collisions with you want to make a change on this server and you see that you can't because it does not fall within the maintenance window. As with the computer, we still have the BIOS, CPUs, memory, video, MAC address, friendly name, host name. We actually have a username also, and then our IPv4, IPv6. But then we have a starting and ending IP address range so that we can track that information. And then our financial information is basically the same. We're going to go back to our CI for computers. And we're going to real briefly look at the task pane over here, our I want to section. So as with incidents, again, if there was an incident attached, it would track the number of open incidents here. Who the primary user is, same type of information that we have on an incident record, where if the user has a phone number, it'll show up, what their email address is. We can select an owner, we can default an owner, we can assign an owner, we can take ownership, we can look at detailed date time information, basic milestones regarding the CI. So it was created by Henry Bryce in 2010, and it was last edited by Cherwell admin in January of 2016. So as part of Cherwell's development and maintaining their data. Create a new. This will allow us to create a new change request, incident, or problem related to this CI. simply runs a create new business object, and so we'll go to that new business object and fill in the data that we need to. View the CI network map. So down here, because of the number of tabs that could be visible on a CI, you have some visibility expressions that will allow you to see certain tabs and relationships, child objects, etc. on a CI. So view the CI network map comes from the upstream, downstream, etc. So if we view the CI network map, we actually see all the connections from this laptop up through our network. So this laptop is connected to our second floor Wi-Fi AP access point. Then it goes to the second floor switch, to a core switch, to the main firewall, and then finally to the ISP firewall. So by using this functionality within the system, if, for example, this core switch went down, we would actually be able to see that in this visualization and know that this laptop isn't going to get out to the internet, but it can still communicate to other devices or systems on that floor, depending on what all this second floor switch is connected to. If the firewall went out, then we would know, well, it can't get out to the internet, but it can get to all other internal systems because the core switch would be connected to all the other floor switches that are going out to different internal systems. So it's a nice feature where you can look at devices that are upstream or downstream of the CI that you're on. You can journal against a CI. You can have related records such as CI events, CI users. Maybe it's a CI with more than one person that uses it. You can come in here and link those. What incidents, what problems, and what change requests are associated with that CI. CI details gives you some information around baseline changes, installed software, installed services, and drives. Most of this data you're going to want to populate from a system like SCCM or CAM, but you can maintain it here. Related CIs, so our only related CI really is the Wi-Fi 2 because that's the only thing we're connected to, but we could also connect it to a printer and track that within the CI list, etc. Other configuration items, you could put them in here. Any contracts, out of the box, you can link contracts within your system if you've set them up to the CI so that they can be available. Let's see. Obviously, we have our different statuses here. So, real quickly, we're going to abandon any changes I've made in this demo data in case I need to use it again. And we're going to create a new config computer. So, new configuration item, new config computer. Notice we automatically have an asset tag. And if we try to save the record, we get told that we must fill in the friendly name. Out of the box, that is the one requirement for save. So we're going to call this a test laptop. And now we're going to save the record. And we've saved it. So as I was saying earlier, if you tie this into your purchasing process, you can actually bring the CIs in, and when they're purchased, you can have a one step that will go through all the related items depending on how you set up your purchasing and create stub CIs for you that you can then come back in here and manage. So you would check, set their status to in stock or building or one of the other statuses. But once we have our basic CI record created, now we can start setting ownership. We can move it to our order status. Then we can mark it as in stock. Then we can plan it, which is our building and coordinating with the customer to get it deployed, and then activate it once we have it in the user's hand or customer's hands. We have an issue with it. Notice that we have our view more status options or mark as in repair, but the view more status options will let us choose to move it to any status. that we need to. So we're going to cancel that, but let's bring this down a little bit. So next we're going to bring it down because, hey, there's a problem with the CI and we're going to work on it. Once we're through repairing it, we can reactivate it. But let's say we need to bring it down and we're going to actually pull it and put a temporary in place because we actually have to do work. Well, we can mark it as in repair once we're in the down state. Or at any point we can view more and choose in repair. So we'll go ahead and set it in repair. And in repair will also let us bring it down, or we can come back down here and reactivate it or view more and say, no, we're going to retire this one because there's a problem. Once we retire the CI, we can bring it back to an activated status. So anyhow, this is just an overview of the CI. Servers, network devices, etc. work the same way within the out-of-the-box system. You do have the various types. You have config computer, config mobile device, config network device. Other CI is kind of a catch-all for CIs that you have not defined specifically. Printers, servers, software licenses. System, which is more like we have an HR system, which is comprised of some SQL or Oracle databases, some servers housing those, etc. So you want to track the system as a whole rather than the individual components. And then finally our telephony equipment. Anyhow, this is, like I said, a quick overview of the out-of-the-box. We haven't gotten into any specifics. I did touch upon some of the customizations that you can do with it, understanding that you can set automation whenever statuses change, when various fields within the system changes, etc. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce these videos every week, hoping to show you something in the system or to prepare some reference material for you. If you have questions, you can email us, tweet us, or post in the channel, and someone will respond. And sometimes we'll respond with a video showing you how to